And with that, the 2023 NFL Draft has come and gone. Just like that, ladies and gentlemen. That's how the NFL Draft typically works. And we've had a lot of fun being able to cover it the last couple of days. We appreciate all of you for being part of said coverage. But welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Southern Sports Scenes production of the NFL Draft. I am your host, as always, Lucas Hill. Make sure you all do us a favor. Y'all hit the like, share, and subscribe if you are watching us on YouTube. If you are viewing from our Twitter, hit the repost button, hit that heart button, and make sure you share to all of your friends, anybody that's on your feed as well. Every live show brought to you by our good friends over at Frost Buddy. Going over to frostbuddy.com. Use that promo code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase. That's code SSS15 to get 15% off of all mugs, cups, tumblers, and more when you use our promo code. Also, thank you to our friends over at Chike Nutrition. With 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of sugar, you can get the best start to your day. Guys, it is a great product that you can use. Easy to start your day off with a nice cup of coffee. I always like to start those days. Why not get it started with a nice and healthy cup of coffee from our friends at Chike Nutrition? Let's discuss every team. I already have my draft grades in. Crazy how that sounds, even though the draft just completed. And here we go, man. So let's go ahead and let's begin with the Arizona Cardinals. And I gave them a C on the draft grade. By the way, we're not having any minuses or pluses. We're just going on a straight A, B, C, D, or F scale. And I have a couple of A's. I have a couple of B's, C's, D's. I have every letter grade. Already immediately, the undrafted free agents are beginning as well. So we'll kind of discuss a little bit as we continue to get some more updates on who's being signed right now and who all could follow suit, and who am I projecting to potentially be a guy that could make a name for himself, that could really make a big name at the end of it all. By the way, guys, if you do want to get involved in the show, y'all make sure that y'all hit us up on the StreamYard. Click the link in the comments section and join up as we speak. I want to listen very fast, though, before we continue further, and kind of look at what James Gladstone had to say in regards to him deciding the decision making behind getting a guy like Nate Boerkerker at 56. And I think that this was one of those situations where I don't know, man.
James, did you anticipate Nate's range being in the second round, or was that just kind of heavy bet the tight end run this time?
Yeah, that was rooted in our own internal sentiment and understanding that the trend in the NFL was that heavier tight end sets was going to be something that got prioritized. And we felt certainly a heavier tight end run throughout the course of the back end of the second into the third. And typically that's a window where the wide receiver run is really occurring. And so I think that certainly showed itself. But he was the one we were hunting up, and we weren't going to allow that to ever be something that we risk.
That makes no sense. It's not a heavy tight end type of group. You're not going to get a blocking tight end at 56. Doesn't make sense. Just doesn't. I don't understand why you went out and got somebody like that. I just don't. It makes 0 sense that you decided to waste the 56th pick and go and get a blocking tight end. But we'll talk about the Jaguars in a little bit. We're focusing on the on the Cardinals right now. I'm going to give them a C. I think the biggest thing, though, that a lot of people underestimated was just how insane and how wild, how incredibly wild that you are going to pay Jeremiah Love $52.5 million guaranteed money. You're asking a lot out of a back that hasn't even taken a step on an NFL field, and yet he is being asked to do a lot more than anybody really expects. So, I mean, whether or not you like the move or not, you have to understand the risk that comes with such a reward with getting a guy like Jeremiah Love. It's a high damn price. And it's a hefty price that Arizona is going to have to pay for quite some time, whether it works out or not. I don't know if it does. I thought Arizona should have gone O-line in the first round, but this is where they're at this point in time. They got a good guard in Chase Bisontis, a guy that I knew was going to be a second rounder. I thought had early projections to be a first rounder, but a really, really, really good get when it was all said and done. Caleb Proctor from Southeastern Louisiana. I'm a little biased because I am a SELA future alumni at this point, but massive get for Arizona. I think he's a really dominant interior off defensive lineman. There was a lot of talk that he could potentially leave and transfer elsewhere, decided to stay. Loved the fact that he stayed, and he played a big role for that SELA defensive line. He proved himself to be a quick lateral mover. Guy is going to have a little bit of a tough time adjusting to, NFL offensive linemen, but his tape against LSU proved that he could hang with the best in college football. I know that he played in an FCS school, but his tape translated really well playing against better competition. Reggie Virgil's a guy that I think could be very competitive, was able to jump from the MAC competition all the way out to the Big 12. Really did a great job just transferring from where he was at in Toledo, ended up going, or not Toledo, but from, I think he was at Bowling Green. I want to say, no, he was at Miami of Ohio, having a transfer from there, went to Texas Tech, and had over 50 catches. So you can't ask for much more than that. Light on his feet to elude press coverage, does some really good job to challenge some routes, and could end up competing for a wide receiver poor position and get some special teams positions at this point. The Atlanta Falcons, I thought, had a C as well. Had some pretty interesting gets, but overall, actually, I'm actually going to change this because I did not really think that this was a great draft. I'm going to go with the D, man. I'm going to be straight up. I think that there was a lot of holes that needed to be adjusted. I think you did for the most part with the cornerback and wide receiver position, but linebacker could have been a lot better. I mean, a lot better. So when we talk about Avion Terrell, a guy that had early projections to go first round, all the way back in probably at the beginning of the year, ended up falling outside of that conversation after a really, really rough showing. He is going to have to improve greatly if he wants to uh, find himself on an NFL raw, if he wants to continue to find himself in an NFL roster. I'm glad that he's there with his brother because he's going to be absolutely insane. Like, make no mistake about that. This kid's going to be a crazy, crazy good DB. But I thought the rest of it, just a lot of question marks. Zachariah Branch is an explosive player that could see mostly special teams at the next level. Kendall Daniels was a fluid linebacker when it was all said and done. I thought he was really well in coverage, but his tackling ability was not good. Got high a lot and found himself on his back more often than he was on top of another guy. No pause, by the way. Harold Perkins as well here's the problem. You're talking about a guy that's coming off of an ACL tear 2 years ago. You don't know where to really put him. Is he a safety? Is he is he more of a special teamer? What are you going to use Harold Perkins as at the next level? And it's funny to me how this was several years ago. People were talking about Harold Perkins being like a once in a generational type of player, and they were expecting him to do just incredible things. And I think that was the general consensus around all of college football. The bottom line, though, is that you aren't at that level. Sorry. You're not an elite defensive end. I hate to say it like that, but he's not. He's not. And I don't think he ever will. Because he has a lot of issues when it comes to if he can stay healthy, if he can do the little things right when it comes to stepping up in the pocket, when it comes to being in coverage, maintaining his gap. How honest can he stay off the edge? How is he in the run game? That's a lot of questions that you got to address with a guy like Perk. And I've watched him really closely. I don't see it, man. The Baltimore Ravens had a really solid draft, man. And I was really impressed with the amount of picks they got and what they were able to turn it around and get. I thought it was a really, really good draft. I think they addressed a good bit of the holes that they needed to obviously fill up, starting off with the interior of the offensive line when they got Vega Ione, a guy that's going to immediately be a plug-and-play guard, excellent puller. Footwork is phenomenal, probably the best out of any guard in this draft class. I think he's going to translate really well. Is able to help out on double teams a lot. I think he's going to get a really good start. Zion Young is a very long and a well-built edge player. Maintains quarterback depth whenever he rushes, a guy that's going to find his way onto a roster and find his way to in the backfield on a consistent basis. He's going to be a very special player at the next level. And a guy that could turn, and when you put him in a Baltimore Ravens room that is pretty damn good, great things can happen. Excellent things are going to happen. By the way, shout out to my buddy Kelby Gibbons. Even though he did not get drafted, things are going to go well for him. I know it. Jacoby Lane was an underrated wide receiver in this draft cycle. I thought that he had him being on the opposite side of Mekhi Lemon kind of took away a little bit of the expectations that were expected. He was kind of a safety valve for his other targets. A guy that Jaden Mayava could check the football down to. He'd get yards after catch. Really, really good mismatch when he's given room to work. The only thing that does concern me is that he's not going to get a whole lot of 50-50 balls at the next level, especially knowing the competition that he's going to have to face. But I think he will continue to improve in that department, and he'll continue to get better as we go along through the draft process. So we'll see what happens with him. Chandler Rivers at corner, think he was at the Senior Bowl, I believe. Elijah Surratt, who I know a lot of people considered to be taken within the first 2 days to the draft. I think he fell to the 4th round. Yeah, fell to the 4th round, which did surprise me at times. But he's very balanced tight end, very balanced wide receiver. Really love him. Rivers is going to play more of that nickel position whenever Baltimore gets into there. Rayshon Benny is interesting. He's a guy that's going to be competing as an early down interior guy, going to be a 1 or 2 gap. He's going to own the 3 tech at times. But I think the way that he moves, he's better than what people were looking at. I mean, 300 pounds at 6'3". I wouldn't necessarily say he's undersized for a defensive tackle, but does possess some really good traits that can help him at the next level. So going on to the Buffalo Bills, who I thought had some pretty good pretty impressive picks throughout the game. I will say the only knock I do have on Buffalo, I think they traded back a couple times, got out of the first round, but I think they were able to turn those picks into some pretty decent gets. They get one of my favorite players in this draft class in Skylar Bell, the UConn wide receiver who absolutely popped off this past year as one of the more underappreciated wide receivers in this draft class. I think Buffalo hit with that one. He's going to be a guy that's going to compete for a potential wide receiver 3 in this room. Davison Igbenogany, there's a lot of conversation about what's going to happen with where Buffalo decides to go. Trey White is no longer with the team. What does 2026 look like? Knowing that there's a lot of free agents that left already. Like we mentioned, Trey White is gone. Taron Johnson got traded to Vegas after a while. And I thought he was a underrated guy that didn't get a lot of balls thrown his way, to be completely fair with him. AJ Epineza was a guy that they had to replace in 2026, and I think they were able to do that when you get a guy like TJ Parker coming on in to bring some depth into that offense. But I do think that TJ is going to be a 2-way guy. I could see him potentially putting on some weight and him playing more of that 3 and 5 tech position. He's such a balanced defensive lineman that you can put him anywhere on the field and he's going to make things happen. And from what I hear, the Browns draft party was really awesome too. If you're a Browns fan, you know that's a freaking lie. But I think going back to the cornerback position, there was a lot of free agents that left, guys that really, really could have had more come their way. Tight end room was definitely an area they needed to address. Or not tight end, but linebacker room was something that they needed to get settled pretty early. Greg Rousseau is a guy they just signed, had a great last couple of years, 15 sacks the last 2 seasons. You know, you just cut Dane Jackson, who's now a free agent. Cam Lewis just signed with Chicago after having a couple years spent with Buffalo. Balen Spector just got traded or just got released. You need linebacker help there. What do you look like in your linebacker room with Shaq Thompson, who's now no longer with the team? So getting guys like him, getting Caleb Alarmzor, a guy that was, I believe, at Senior Bowl, or that no, I wasn't at Senior Bowl, was at East West Shrine Bowl. Started his career off at Cal, ends up transferring to TCU. Or no, he was in the Senior Bowl. Really impressive last game that he had. 11 tackles, was just all over the field. Was one of the Big 12's most dominant linebackers that was able to get on display. So guys that you definitely needed. Jalen Kilgore, or from South Carolina, should provide a lot of depth in the secondary and a guy that's going to learn a lot in his position right there. Going on to Carolina. I thought Carolina hit well. Their biggest need was offensive line because Bryce doesn't need to be running around like he did. Monroe Freeling is a big steal, a guy that could have gone to LA. We'll get to LA in a minute. But I thought overall, solid draft from them. Lee Hunter was a guy that stood out to me in Senior Bowl. Chris Brazel's an underrated receiver that is not going to get a whole lot of attention. Will Lee is one of those guys that dominates in press coverage, a guy that's very disruptive at times. He's got to be able to beat blocks faster and replace the ankle diving with a lot of more committed wraps. He's going to eventually turn himself into a starter at that position. And then Sam Hecht was one guy that, you know, his size and his speed doesn't really match what he puts out on tape. But, man, he's going to be really, really good at center. He's a guy that I think can develop well and eventually put himself in a position where he could be your starting center within the next 2 years if you keep developing him for a while. The Chicago Bears, I thought, had a really, really good draft. Really, really good draft. Safety was a big concern for them. Same with offensive line, and they hit big time. You get Dylan Thieneman from Oregon, one of the hardest hitting safeties in the NFL draft. NFL size, speed, and alignment versatility. Has a very good feel for the play design and the route concepts and his zone coverage. Change of direction, does have to improve to match his breaks and man-to-man coverage. Can, however, be an anchor at a safety position, and a position that is really, really kind of deserving of a king's throne in Chicago. Sam Roush is a really talented tight end that, again, I know I say it a lot, but a lot of these guys came from the Senior Bowl, and I was really impressed with Sam Roush's ability to change direction. He is a receiver that his way to his change of direction is really impressive. His route running is excellent. Can expand his role as more than just a run and zone beater. He's a tough kid, and he's going to prove that whenever it comes to him stepping out onto the field. We'll take a couple more, and then we got to take a break. Cincinnati, I'll give them a C. Definitely could have done a lot better in this draft, man. Offensive line was a big need that you needed to fill, and you got 2 offensive linemen. But it's 2 offensive linemen that I think you can develop. It's 2 centers. And yet, at 189, you still could have gotten a player that I really, really, really freaking liked from this past January, and that was Demetrius Crownover, who I believe is somewhere else, but I'll kind of discuss that once we get into a position, into a much better position. We'll see from here. Anyways, we continue on. I think a lot of people are giving Cincinnati a B. I'll be darned. Also, another big concern was just protecting Joe Burrow, and they got to be much better on the defensive side of the ball. I thought Al Golden was a product of a great defense that he had at Notre Dame. He's a great coordinator, but I don't know if he's ready for the actual NFL, man. I just don't see a scenario where he's successful in here. We'll see, though. There's a lot of things that we got to address with there, but they get their edge rusher in Cassius Howell. They get a great cover corner in Tacario Davis that had first-round grades pre him getting hurt. Limited him to 7 games this past year before he ended up making the transfer back to Washington from Arizona. The undrafted free agents are going to play a big role in this. But again, here's a team that has to improve in that department. Connor Lew is a really interesting get for me. Team captain, guy could have been a top 50 pick had it not been for an ACL tear. Great athleticism, strong hands, strong core, climbs to the second level with ease. Landon Robinson is a small defensive tackle, could transition to an outside DN, but man, he has a quick twitch off the ball. All-American for a reason, and he's one of the Naval Academy's best defensive linemen that has come through in a while. Jack Endries from Texas as a tight end is going to be switching back and forth from playing that tight end position. You could line him up in the slot as well, be an underneath receiver that can create the check down and get yards after catch for you. The Cleveland Browns actually had a really decent draft for once. And I know that it's crazy for me to say, but I think your biggest role was protecting Shedeur Sanders and getting him pass catchers. But before we get into that, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Guys, I want to tell you about our friends over at Frost Buddy. It is drinkware engineered to keep your beverages exactly how you want them. Whether you're heading out for an adventure or just powering through your day, Frost Buddy's flagship product, the Universal Buddy, replaces the need for multiple can coolers by fitting virtually every 12-ounce and 16-ounce can bottle you drink, sodas and seltzers to coffee and sparkling water, all in a single versatile design. Constructed with high-quality double-walled stainless steel and thoughtful features like a flexible silicone lid, and a tapered shape that fits most cup holders, Frost Buddy keeps drinks cold for 12 hours and hot for up to 6 hours. So you get consistent temperature control, whether it's an iced drink on a hot afternoon or a hot coffee on the drive to work. Built to last, field tested for durability, and backed by a 30-day return policy, Frost Buddy makes everyday moments, from tailgates and beach days to backyard cookouts and commutes, more enjoyable. Going over and click the link below and use promo code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase when you visit our friends over at frostbuddy.com. And when you use that promo code SSS15. Are you tired of spending upwards of $7 to $8 on coffees that are full of sugar and high in fat? Well, look no further than Chike Nutrition, the brand redefining what coffee can do for your day. Chike Nutrition combines the rich, familiar taste of real coffee with 20 grams of high-quality protein and the energy of 2 shots of espresso, giving you both fuel and function in every scoop. Available in a variety of crave-worthy flavors like mocha, caramel, vanilla, and many more, Chike delivers smooth, cafe-style iced coffee that mixes instantly with water or your favorite milk, with no clunky blender or complicated prep needed. Each serving is designed to be low in sugar, packed with protein, and loaded with real espresso, so that you can get a sustained energy boost that helps power your morning, workout, or busy afternoon without the crash that comes from sugary coffee drinks. Whether you're looking for better nutrition in your coffee routine or a smarter way to stay energized and full longer, Chike makes it simple. Scoop, shake, sip, and enjoy. If you want to take advantage of the new year and get in the best shape of your life, click the link below and get yourself 10% off of your first order over at ChikeNutrition.com. All right, I think my internet went down for a brief minute. Are we back? Am I back? Hey guys, if you're in the comment section right now, do me a favor. Give me a thumbs up if you have our feed, or if anybody that's in the comments. Trying to see what it looks like. Weird. Guys, once again, hey, y'all do me a favor. Give me a thumbs up if we're good. If I'm back online. Okay. We're starting to get some feed on the Twitter feeds. All right. There it is. All right, we're good. All right. Real fast on a lot of our undrafted free agents, dating back to the end of the NFL draft. Haynes King has signed with the Panthers on a $250,000 guaranteed contract. Jalen Daniels is officially a Buccaneer. Matthew Caldwell, who's a former Texas quarterback, will be signing with the Rams. Had some moments at Troy, Gardner-Webb, and Jacksonville State. Minnesota Moorhead quarterback Jack Strand is signing with the Falcons. Jack Dingle will be signing with the Bengals. Joey Aguilar, this is an interesting one, is signing with the Jaguars. Is he going to be your backup, though? That's going to be the thing. Kyron Drones will be signing with the Green Bay Packers, former Virginia Tech quarterback. SMU wide receiver Jordan Hudson is staying in Dallas, signing with the Cowboys. You have Austin Brown, former Wisconsin safety. I'll be signing with the Colts. I like this one, too. Collian Lacey, a guy that I think could have had a big, big night if he wouldn't have gotten hurt. He is now going to be a New York Jet. I think he can make his name as a kick returner. It sucks that I think if he wouldn't have transferred from South, if he would have stayed there, he would have been a draft pick. He wouldn't have had to wait till he's an undrafted free agent, but officially he's going to be signing a big free agency deal. Here's the one I was talking about yesterday. Tyron Montgomery, who I talked about a little bit during the Senior Bowl, just signed with the Titans. Ooh. Trying to see who else we have. Jamori McClain from Kentucky is going to sign with the Bills. Miller Moss is signing with the Bears. Jaden Ott with the Chiefs. Illinois defensive tackle is going to be signing with the 49ers. Notre Dame wide receiver Will Pauling is going to sign with the Niners as well. Malik Rutherford is going to sign with the Falcons. Missouri State quarterback Jacob Clark, we love Jacob Clark, is going to be signing with the Raiders. So, yeah, man. Pretty good stuff from the undrafted free agents. Right now, we'll obviously have more as they continue to be trickling in. All right, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns, who I think got some steals. I mean, some really, really good steals. Casey Concepcion is a downhill receiver that's going to get some play, that has an incredible burst of acceleration out of his break. He's a guy that I really think is going to do some damage at the next level. Think he's going to create his opportunities when they come. Concepcion is going to be probably your wide receiver too. And then eventually by the next year, I think he could potentially be Shedeur Sanders' favorite target. He has that opportunity to get off the ball really quick. He gets into his breaks with less damage from handsy coverage. Very elusive in beating press. Spencer Fano at left tackle is going to make a lot of sense for me because you needed it. You absolutely needed it. Quick feet as an offensive tackle. Burst off the line of scrimmage with a lot of power. Finds a late anchor when he's taking the worst of a bull rush. Does need to do better at staying square. But he's an athletic tight end that can make a lot of headlines. It's been a while. I want to look at the first round picks that What's funny is the last 3 times that oh my gosh. Man, there's some tough picks that they got. The last couple of guys that they traded their pick to, they traded to Philadelphia. Philadelphia got Jordan Davis. They traded a first-round pick to Detroit. Detroit got Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's been a freaking dog. Brian Thomas is coming off of an excellent season. Dexter Lawrence was a 3-time Pro Bowler at one point. We'll see what happens with Mason Graham. Kind of an underwhelming season. Did have 7 TFLs. He's not a guy that's going to get into the backfield and create sacks, but Mason is more of that inside move guy. He's going to find a window where if there's a ball in the air, he's going to bat the MFer down. But going back to offensive tackle, Jedrick Wills was the last one that came through Cleveland, and he was a guy that he was all rookie, freshman, first year of the year, picked up his 5th year, struggled with injury, just hasn't been as good as what people have expected. Other than that, between him, it's been a while since there's been a really good offensive tackle. Joe Thomas was the last great offensive tackle for Cleveland. And Cam Irvin was a guy that could not stay healthy. And by the way, it wasn't his fault most of the time because he got switched from back and forth to from guard to tackle to center. But I don't know, man. That's difficult, but we'll see. But I think Spencer Fano is going to translate really well at left tackle. I'm not saying that he's going to be Joe Thomas. He doesn't have to be Joe Thomas. He just has to be Spencer Fano when it is all said and done. All right. Let's talk about the Cowgirls. I meant the Cowboys. Defense was a big, big thing for them. And I think they got some steals. They got what was, in my opinion, one of the best safeties in this draft class in Caleb Downs. Probably the best defensive player in this draft class, if we're being honest. But they trade back with Philly, and they wait till 23. And who do they freaking get? When you have Keldrick Falk, you have Cassius Howell, but you go out and you get Malachi Lawrence, who, by the way, I didn't think was that good. Fast, 4.52, 40-yard dash. Had a pretty decent season. I'm not saying that he was bad. But it's a hell of a stretch for Jerry to say, let's draft this kid from UCF at 23. My question is, what caused Keldrick Falk to slide so fast? He didn't get a whole lot of tests when it comes to offensive tackle, especially competing in the American Conference. Discipline wise, he has to be better. I don't know, man. He's got a lot of potential, man. Make no mistake about that. But to get him at 23 was a hell of a stretch. I don't think I saw an NFL draft projection that had him going in the first round. Not Malachi Lawrence. And from a production standpoint, he was a mid-tier guy. Wasn't as physical as I would have thought. He just wasn't like any other edge rusher in this draft. He just wasn't. Because when you look at the edge, here's who was better than him. Cassius Howell, Zion Young, and I think Akeem Mesidor. No, Akeem Mesidor was before Malachi Lawrence. I think Dallas realistically wanted to wait until Akeem Mesidor probably fell to 23. But, dude, Keldrick Falk is going to be really quick. His ceiling is ridiculous. He's got a better opportunity to flash as an elite edge rusher, my opinion, compared to Malachi Lawrence. I think Dallas whipped on that one. And the fact that you got another edge in Jayshawn Barham, knowing that he was an off-ball linebacker, and you got LT Overton. So you got 3 defensive ends in this draft class. Why? Not to mention Anthony Smith. So, excuse me. God, dog. But we'll see what happens with that team and with where they're going to go in the next couple of years. Drew Shelton was a pretty solid left tackle, 2 full seasons as a full-time starter. fluid lineman, a guy that could turn out in big situations. The Denver Broncos needed some freaking help. There was the problem with Denver was that the only concern I'd say was being more explosive on the offensive side of the ball. I think their defensive tackles needed some help, and I think their offensive line as well needed some help in that department. Tyler Onyedum in the 3rd round. Good first punch, is a guy that's going to rip off at the line of scrimmage. Just wasn't a whole lot that you could say they needed to get. But Jonah Coleman is an underrated running back that I think could have been in contention to be the number 2 back taken off the board. Coleman is going to be one of those players that is going to be really special when it is all said and done. Jesus Christ, what a catch by James Bostic. Denver's going to have a fun time using him in a variety of different packages. Same with Cage Casey. I think he can become a starter pretty soon. John, most of what you have from free agency this past year, Denver was able to return. It's not really a big concern with them only picking a handful in this draft. Their first pick wasn't until the third freaking round, and they only had 7 picks total. But I think they were fine. You get Justin Jolly, who I thought was really good as a pass catcher from North Carolina State. Cage Casey and Jonah Coleman are going to provide a lot of depth at the on the offensive side of the ball. The Detroit Lions needed to improve big time off the edge, and I thought they were able to do that at times. I'm going to give them a C, in my opinion. I thought you were able to do that. You get Derek Moore, Aiden Hutchinson's teammate, I believe. I could be wrong, though. No, he wasn't there whenever Hutchinson was there. He gets to be alongside his teammate Aiden Hutchinson as a former Wolverine as well. Derek Moore's always been a defensive end that shown incredible talent off the edge. Really good bend, really strong at 255, 44th overall pick is where Detroit goes with him. And I think it was really impressive that you're able to get someone like that. Not only that, you get Tyree West and Skylar Gill Howard from Tennessee and Texas Tech, respectively. 2 big boys in the middle that can provide depth, that can potentially be more of, third down, money down linemen that comes into these different packages and creates havoc in the middle. I think they're faster than the average guard in the NFL, and I think they can create some chaos come preseason. Keith Abney is a guy as a boundary corner, has the makeup to slide inside, can create that nickelback type of position when he moves to the inside. And I thought he was really, really solid at Arizona State. Really solid cover corner and really physical at the point of attack as well. Green Bay's biggest thing was really just filling in depth. Micah Parsons is back from an ACL tear. Rashawn Gary is no longer with the team. The problem is that you need a guy like Lucas Van Ness to break out so far. Do they have their eventual replacement? Is it going to be Danny Dennis Sutton? It's kind of hard because Green Bay only got 6 guys in this entire draft. That's why I got to give them a D, because I don't think you have that, solid replacement for now. I think you could have done a lot better in the middle, but I think I like the way that they decided to go. They decided to focus mostly on defense. You get a guy in Damani Jackson that, in my opinion, I think could have done a lot better. Javon Hargrave comes back. Devontae Wyatt is going to be him. It's going to be him and Javon Hargrave in the middle. But you need depth, and I think that's where Chris McClellan comes in, 3rd-round pick. Really long, high knee bender, guy that's going to play the 3-tech really well. Played more like an edge rusher when we saw him at Senior Bowl. Was really impressed with what he had to put on display out in Mobile. Brandon Cisse is a natural cover corner. Didn't have a lot of balls thrown his way. Thought he had some good bend at times, but I'm still skeptical about him. But we'll see, man. We'll have to see in that department. Secondary is going to be a big concern for Green Bay. Houston had a really solid draft. You needed offensive linemen. You needed nasty interior guys so that C.J. Stroud wasn't running for his freaking life most of the time. I think you were able to get that in a key special team player in Aiden Fisher, who's going to be fighting for a roster spot at this point. Marlon Klein is a guy that, oh, man, I think this was a stretch for a day 2 pick. Man, this was interesting. This was an interesting decision. Because, again, Houston could have gotten either Sam Roush or they could have gotten probably Max Clark or Eli Stowers. Where did Eli Stowers go? He went 54, didn't he? Yeah, he went 54. Where did they went 59? Okay, well, if that's the case. But still, you could have had Max Clark. You could have had Sam Roush. Oscar Delp was also there. I don't know about the Delp one, but definitely guys like that. Eli Raridan could have definitely been a guy that you go out and get. I think could have been better options for you when you compare them to Marlon Klein, but does also need to be better with blocking inside. He's got really strong hands. Is a pretty solid pass catcher, but I think he was a guy that could have waited till the latter rounds in the draft instead of being a second round pick. I just don't see somebody like that being a fixture on the offensive line. So going on to the Indianapolis Colts, the Colts could have been a lot better this year. But I like the addition of C.J. Allen at linebacker. That was a need that you needed to fill in. Not to mention getting a guy like A.J. Halsey that you needed at safety. Two guys that I think had first-round grades early on, could have been first-rounders. But, again, you went all in with what Indianapolis decided to do. We're going to go two linebackers, got two edge rushers, a guard, a safety, and a receiver, and a running back. Seth McGowan's a guy that can provide depth at running back. Deion Burks is a surefire as a pass catcher. I think can compete for a roster spot when it's all said and done. C.J. Allen and Bryce Botcher is going to be fighting for playing time. I think Allen's going to be the primary one. That's going to be your linebacker one when it's all said and done. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a freaking disaster. James Gladstone. So, let me get this straight. What do they do with their first freaking pick at 56? He's a blocking tight end. He's a blocking tight end. So we're going to get him over Max Clark, who is a lot more productive. Okay. Albert Regis I like at times, but does have a lack of length, does tend to struggle when it comes to taking double teams. And what did you do? You got another freaking tight end, Tanner Kozoil. Long guy. I like Tanner Kozoil, and again, I might be biased because I like Tanner. I met Tanner, and I'd say we eventually had a solid relationship at times while we were both in Mobile. But the Jaguars were a freaking mess today. I like the Josh Cameron pick, but other than that, guys, I just have a hard time seeing what else they really did well. Wesley Williams was a decent pick in the fourth round. hard, hot motor and a guy that's going to get in the backfield in a hurry. Emmanuel Pregnon is a guy that I had a first-round grade on. Could have been picked in the first round, ends up falling to round 3, and that is where the Jags eventually pick him up. But you need freaking explosiveness from both sides of the line of scrimmage. You didn't get that. Just in my opinion. The Kansas City Chiefs, overall, not a terrible grade. Mansour Delane, you got your star, our corner to replace Trent McDuffie. That was a big need for them. Peter Woods is a two-way player that is able to play edge as well as defensive tackle. Woods ended up playing a lot of edge in his last 2 years at Clemson, when in my opinion, he should have been playing in the middle. That would have benefited him insanely, absolutely insanely, if he would have done so. Oh, shoot. But I think Kansas City did a really good job this weekend, getting some great defensive linemen, guys that you know that is aging. You need another guy alongside George Karlaftis. That's what R. Mason Thomas is going to bring for you. Peter Woods provides a guy that can play alongside Chris Jones. That front four should significantly get better with you have Karlaftis, when you have Chris Jones, when you have Peter Woods and R. Mason Thomas on the other side. Emmett Johnson plays kind of like is two running backs mixed together. And Emmett Johnson got a lot of love very, very recently. I really like the way that he runs, and I really like how he's emerged more as a two-way type of player, really the prototypical running back that you'd expect. Kind of slow at 4.5, but a very, very elusive running back, hard runner, and a guy that does not go down after initial contact. I think he goes into Kansas City situation. He's in a perfect offense, learning under Patrick Mahomes in the Andy Reid system, and I think it is going to benefit him better than we expect. Him and Kenneth Walker, I think those two guys are going to get a lot of carries, and two guys that I think will eventually be your two main backs at the end of the day. Who else did I forget? Cyrus Allen, by the way, is a very, very good slot receiver. He is going to create additional value for him because of how elusive he is after the catch. The Raiders, I thought, had a really solid draft class. They get their quarterback of the future, and they build around him through the freaking draft. That's what was so key for Clint Kubiak to do during this offseason. And he's been able to do that. And I think it's been beneficial to you. He's able to get pass catchers. The interior of the defensive line was a major concern for the Raiders going into this year. But they got some really sneaky good picks this year, not to mention what they get from the past offseason. So that Clint Kubiak offense is going to look really, really impressive. knowing who you were able to kind of bring in. I know that you traded Jacoby Myers in order to get a fourth and a sixth round selection. And I think that's what you get when you get guys like Jermon McCoy and when you get Malik Benson. So you get two guys that you can trust on either side of the ball, and they're going to be very effective. When it comes to free agency, for the Raiders, the way that they were able to sign, you were able to get Kirk Cousins in as a backup. I think the addition of guys like Quay Walker and Kwity Paye were absolutely necessary. Nakobe Dean is going to provide a leadership role in the linebacker room. Jalen Naylor is someone I really like from who played over at Minnesota for a little while. Had some solid pass, was a solid pass catcher. Glad that he's got a 3-year, $35 million deal. So somebody that you can throw the football to. You get a Pro Bowl center in Tyler Linderbaum, which was massive for Fernando Mendoza. You get Mike Washington, who's going to be in the backfield for you. Malik Benson is a quality pass catcher. Hezekiah Massis, dude. I liked him at Senior Bowl. I expected him to kind of stand out amongst the rest of the cornerbacks in this group, but kind of underwhelming for the most part, but really liked what he brought to the table in the regular season. The Chargers have a seat, unfortunately. Could have done a lot better. Could have had some better picks than what you get, but I think fairly underrated for the most part. You get a speed demon in Brennan Thompson. I really like him. Love the explosiveness out of his breaks that he brought at Mississippi State. Think he's going to be an effective slot guy. Can dominate any game that goes his way. So we'll see, man. Akeem Mesidor was a guy that I've always been a fan of. And I think he grew a lot this past offseason. I understand he's 25 years old, but his motor is really good. And I think that the Raiders are willing to take it, or not the Raiders, but the Chargers are willing to take a chance on that at the end of the day. So let's talk about where the Rams are headed at this direction. And a team that I've been really looking forward to. I was going to give them an F, but they get a D. Crazy as it sounds. I like what they got with 3 of their 5 picks. I like Max Clark. I like Tim Keenan in the middle. I like CJ Daniels as an outside receiver. Keegan Trost is a guy that was in college football for a while, but I don't really know what I can really expect from him. So that's my thoughts on him. The fact that you got Ty Simpson at 13 is an absolutely ridiculous thing that you could have done there. I think it's a really dumb move, in my opinion, and a move that you should have thought twice about before you even decided to draft him. It just didn't make sense. So we'll see, man. Miami Dolphins are getting a C grade. I thought that they were solid for the most part. Caden Proctor, you get in round one. I say that in your first two first round picks were fairly mid, to be honest. I don't think Caden Proctor you could have gotten at 12, but hey, I think he has a huge upside. Chris Johnson, I don't think he was worth the first round pick. Did get his butt whipped a lot in Senior Bowl, but not terrible for the most part, but definitely could have seen a lot better production from his standpoint. But he is a shutdown corner from the tape that you watch from when he was at San Diego State. He has a tremendous upside. We'll see what he does at the end of the day. Jacob Rodriguez is probably one of the more underappreciated linebackers in the country. I am excited to see what he brings as an edge rusher and how he's going to continue to develop in his development as a linebacker. They had a lot of picks, man. These are more than I thought. But they made the most of it. DJ Campbell is a solid backup guard that you need. Michael Taft was a guy that I always liked. Kyle Lewis is going to play more of a safety role other than linebacker. Chris Bell was an elite wide receiver at Louisville. Caleb Douglas was somebody I really liked that you get at 75. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, who is Caleb Douglas? Who is this? Who is that? Guys, Caleb Douglas is really good. But that's going to do it for us today, guys. I'm only going to do half of the teams today. I do have things that I have to do tonight. So make sure you all do us a favor. Hit the like and share button down below. Turn on the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live, posting a video or posting a short here on the Southern Sports Scene. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay blessed. Don't stress. Y'all have a good rest.